Dawn broke over Noukouma with a silence that felt wrong. Across the plain, the Bamana Empire stood in numbers so vast their formations blurred into the horizon about 50,000 seasoned fighters, drums echoing across the Sahel like thunder rolling toward war. Facing them was a force of about 5,000 men that should have been erased from history. A small, tightly disciplined Fulani army led by Seku Amadu, a man whose rise from scholar to warrior had already shaken kingdoms. Logic said this battle was over before it began. But on this morning, logic died, without warning. The sky cracked open, dust exploded, hooves ripped the earth, and the Fulani charge that followed was so fast, so violent, so surgically precise, that Bamana officers swore the ground moved before the men did. What should have been a Fulani massacre became a Bamana collapse so sudden, so total. Scholars still call it a miracle of the Sahel. This is the Battle of Noukouma, the battle that rewrote destiny. Before Noukouma, West Africa was a fuse waiting to ignite. The Bamana Empire, proud and powerful, dominated the region for generations. Their armies were feared. Their war drums were a warning no king ignored. But in the early 1800s, a new force emerged, the Fulani reformers, burning with conviction, discipline, and a vision of reshaping the Sahel. At their center stood Seku Amadu, a man who never planned to be a conqueror. His strength wasn't in numbers, it was in cohesion, strategy, and belief. And the Bamana knew it. They saw the rising Fulani influence as an infection, something to be crushed before it spread. Tension rose, borders tightened, raids sparked counter-raids. And by 1818, both sides understood the truth. A clash was coming. Not a skirmish, not a campaign, a battle that would decide who ruled the heart of West Africa. Noukouma wasn't chosen by fate. It was chosen by war. The Bamana marched first, reaching Noukouma with a force that dwarfed anything the Fulani could field. Columns of musketeers, armored cavalry, seasoned infantry, hardened by decades of warfare. Reports say the Bamana army was at least 10 times larger than Seku Amadu's. Their commanders believed victory was guaranteed. Numbers win battles. Discipline wins wars. And they had both. But they underestimated the force forming on the opposite end of the plain. Seku Amadu didn't bring the largest army, he brought the tightest. Men trained to move as a single organism. Units drilled to pivot, encircle, and break enemy formations like water cracking stone. He didn't plan to match the Bamana blow for blow. He planned to shatter them. While Bamana warriors built wide, proud battle lines, the Fulani arranged in unconventional shapes, curved wings, narrow centers, and mobile detachments designed for speed, shock, and misdirection. The Bamana prepared for a contest of strength. Seku Amadu prepared a trap of movement. Both sides waited for sunrise. Only one understood what was coming. The battle didn't start with a drum. It started with a silence so heavy, Bamana officers later said it felt like the world inhaled. Then came the crack. Dust burst upward. Hooves slammed the soil. And out of that rising cloud came Fulani cavalry, moving in a tight wedge formation that had one goal: split the Bamana center before the enemy even understood they were being attacked. The Bamana front ranks fired a volley late, uncoordinated, rushed. The Fulani wedge hit them like a spear thrown by a god. Bodies flew, lines buckled. The Bamana didn't break, not yet, but they bent. And in that single bend, the Fulani found their opening. Behind them came a wave of infantry, men moving with a uniformity almost unnatural for the era. Spears angled, muskets ready, steps synchronized. To the Bamana, it looked less like soldiers and more like a storm. Their second volley never formed. Their third line couldn't see. And the fourth realized something horrifying. The Fulani hadn't come to fight a long battle. They had come to end one. Once the Fulani wedge pierced the Bamana center, the entire battlefield began to fold in on itself. Amadu's cavalry didn't stay in the middle. They split into two streams, slicing outward like blades cutting fabric. Bamana units that once stood shoulder to shoulder suddenly found themselves isolated, exposed, and under attack from angles they never prepared for. Their commanders shouted for order, but order was gone. Fulani infantry crashed into the fractured Bamana left. Skirmishers peppered the right with precise musket fire. Cavalry carved gaps faster than the Bamana could close them. The Bamana army, the empire's pride, lost its shape. Then something worse happened. Panic. It started as a ripple, a few men pulling back, a commander realizing his flank no longer existed, a volley firing into friendly ranks. And then the ripple became a wave. Some tried to regroup. Some tried to push forward. Most simply ran. The ground shook with the force of thousands retreating at once. But the Fulani didn't let them escape. They pressed harder. They moved faster. They turned Bamana retreat into Bamana collapse. The final stage of the battle was not a fight. It was a demolition. Fulani detachments swung around both flanks, sealing the Bamana from the rear. Trapped between dust, hooves, and steel, the Empire's army lost all remaining cohesion. Seku Amadu's warriors didn't give them time to reorganize. They attacked in waves, each time to strike before the Bamana could breathe. What followed has been described in chronicles as an hour of breaking. Shields cracked, mounts fell, ranks imploded. This was no longer a battle of armies. It was a clash of will, and the Bamana will snapped first. Some tried forming a defensive square. It collapsed under cavalry pressure. Others attempted a spear wall countercharge. It broke in seconds. What remained fled toward Noukouma's edge, but even there, the Fulani were waiting. When the dust finally settled, the field was unrecognizable. The Bamana Empire's military backbone had shattered. Not weakened, not bruised, shattered. By the end of the day, Noukouma belonged to the Fulani. The Bamana army once feared across the Sahel was defeated so completely, so violently, that nothing like it had been seen in a generation. This victory didn't just end a battle. It reshaped a region. Seku Amadu emerged from Noukouma not as a rebel, but as a kingmaker. The Fulani state he built from this moment, the Massina Empire, would dominate the Niger heartland for decades, expanding with the confidence earned on this field of fire. The Bamana Empire, Noukouma was its beginning of the end. One morning, one charge, one impossible victory. The day the sky broke open, and West Africa changed forever.